the shared tab group named Balcony. Safari wasn't supposed to be social. That was why I liked it. No badges, no likes, just a history that belonged to one person and one machine. So the blue notification surprised me while I was waiting for pasta water to boil. You've been added to a shared tab group. Balcony. My first thought was practical. Maybe I'd tapped something wrong while hunting for a recipe I'd pretend was mine. Then I read the line underneath, and my throat went dry the way rooms get before a thunderstorm. Added by Mara. Mara shares playlists sometimes, grocery lists constantly, and patience only when the light behaves. We've been together long enough that our phones mimic our manners, but she had never shared a tab group. I touched the banner before my ribs could argue. 4 little rectangles waited inside the blue ring. I tapped the first, and the browser obediently unrolled a hotel website I knew from advertisements more earnest than trustworthy. Alder Rooms, Brick trying to be heritage. The second was a blog post ranking, the city's most honest balconies. The third was a map of public parking near Harbor Place. The last one made the room tilt. A link titled Best Silk Slips for Under a Dress, a list of photographs that made their own argument for why mannequins don't get jealous. At the bottom, a small gray avatar pulsed next to mine. Theo. The pasta water had begun to hiss. I turned the burner down because heat prefers patience. My phone offered me a kind suggestion. Say hey to the group. My thumbs stayed where men put them when they remember they were raised well. Mara had texted an hour earlier with our shorthand. Studio late. Don't wait. Her hyphen for the kind of evening that makes sleep into a negotiation. She designs projection for rooms that would lie without supervision. I designed sound that makes those rooms regret their fake accents. We spend a lot of time teaching spaces to behave. It turns out you have to do that with homes, too. I could have called and asked her to translate the word balcony into something with fewer pictures. Instead, I put my phone on the counter like a witness I didn't trust yet and opened the cupboard where we keep the ugly lamp's spare bulb. There is a small mercy in menial acts. They do not interpret you while you're doing them. At 8:19, the lock turned. The hall sent its thin strip of yellow under the door as if the building were trying to apologize ahead of time. Mara stepped in with her hair pinned low, and the face she uses when a wall thinks it knows her better than she knows herself. She saw my body attempt weather. She set her bag down with the care of someone unwilling to break anything else. You saw it, she said. Balcony, I said. Your tabs, Theo's little gray head in the corner. She exhaled without dramatics. Kitchen or small room, she asked. The small room is where we keep the ugly lamp, the forgiving rug, the list of rules written on the backs of menus because scripture should travel. The kitchen is where we keep knives and mercy. Here, I said, let the refrigerator over here. She leaned her palms on the counter and looked at me like she could move furniture with her eyes. He sent it as homework, she said. Sponsor is a novice at subtlety. He thinks light tells the truth only when the room feels illicit. He wanted my opinion on Alder's balcony. I told him to send photos at noon like a civilian. He invited me to a tab group instead because he likes pretending we are small together. Did you kiss him? I asked. I had promised myself not to decorate the noun. I did, she said, and watched my mouth not invent a speech. Once, last week, on a balcony that thinks it invented wind. It tasted like someone else's memory of me. I came home and wrote a list and forgot to delete the part of me that makes research into a dare. What did you want? I asked. I meant it to be a chair, not a weapon. To see if the switch is dead, she said. The one labeled ruin, then call it clarity. She's not dead. She's weak. I can negotiate with her in daylight. I ignore her after dark. Do you want him? The word want can be elegant if you hold it like a glass, not a gun. No, she said. I want an hour where my face is not a tool and the ceiling doesn't need me. He impersonates that hour fine. You build it in this house. We stood in the honest quiet that makes people choose who they are next. I took the menu we have turned into a constitution off the fridge and uncapped the pen that lives in the sugar bowl. Truth before research, I wrote. Mara nodded into the bad lamp's yellow. If a tab says balcony, she added under my line, I say our front door out loud first. I wrote, if you think you need to kiss someone to learn you don't want them, tell me before your body tries to cite a paper. She smiled once without liking it and underlined tell twice. Storm or quiet, she asked. The code is stupid. It has rescued us more times than any cleverness. Quiet, I said. Then the exact amount of weather that makes the room remember it isn't a stage. We ate the pasta we weren't craving because bodies like habits. After, she came to me the way people do who are willing to fail where it matters. Her mouth found the place under my ear where grammar collapses. I put my hands where they have earned the right to be unafraid. Both hips, the square at the top of her spine that resets catastrophes. She stepped backward onto the counter with the competence of an engineer and the simple greed of an animal that refuses to apologize. We were careful because spectacle is for strangers, greedy because yes is a currency you inspire or it stops coming. We stopped before our bodies wrote legislature. We leaned forehead to forehead and let air do its job. In the morning, the tab group was still there, sulking on my screen. My phone offered me a prompt it thought was kind. Share something to start a conversation. I screenshotted the hotel's emergency exit plan and sent it to the group with a single line. There's always a staircase. Thea replied with a thumbs up, which I respected because silence would have been worse. Mara sent a photo of our kitchen under morning light with a caption in her careful tone. Today, this is the view. Work wanted versions of us with names. I tuned a black box so the room would tell compliments in the correct tone. Mara bullied a wall into blushing only when someone deserved it. At noon, she forwarded me the email she'd sent. No more tab groups, daylight or nothing. I'm removing myself from balcony. He replied correctly, understood. He CC'd the project manager the way men call witnesses when they don't trust their own futures. The city is an efficient sinner. A week later, Safari offered me a For You memory of sites I had not asked to remember, Alder Rooms again, an article titled How to Tell the Truth Without Explaining, a map of a public park whose benches know more secrets than God. My thumb hovered. I opened the map and then closed it and then opened our rule sheet and wrote with a pettiness that paid off. If Safari gets social again, we become analog. Mara bought a paper atlas at a thrift store you would have hated 5 years ago, and we laid it on the ugly lamp's glow like we were 14 and planning a road trip with stolen courage. She circled the roof of our building with a pencil. This is the only balcony I'm interested in, she said, but it needs folding chairs. We bought 2. They were not romantic and they squeaked. We took them up a stairwell that has learned our cough and sat under a sky that refuses to endorse anybody. She wore a sweater and a mouth that forgives slowly. I told her the asphalt below our block looked like the sea if you squinted until memory gave up. We kissed until the chairs seemed to approve. We went back downstairs because fantasy tires the heart if you do it too long. Of course we failed. People do. A dry cleaner called to confirm alterations on a black silk that wants to cause problems. I held the phone like a relic and then accepted the bag across a counter that smelled like steam and history. At home, I set the dress on the chair we use when we need to sit and not lie to each other. Mara touched the plastic with a look I did not know how to bury. Some things are allowed to want trouble, she said. Some things are for kitchen floors. She wore it that night with slipper socks and said storm like a toast. We did, and we stopped, and tomorrow still wanted us. Theo is learning humility like a man learning a second language. He nodded at me at a gala where wine thought it was personality and said to Mara without using our names, "The balcony sings." She said, "We tuned its audience," and I loved her more for that petty miracle than for anything she has made light do on purpose. On a Thursday with rain that had forgotten to be dramatic, Safari pinged with a new invitation. Join shared tab group, staircase. I didn't roll my eyes because I am now 30% Grace. I opened the group. Mara had added one tab, how to grow basil indoors without crying. Underneath it, our kitchen in a photo taken at 11 p.m., the ugly lamp trying and failing to make itself pretty. I responded with one link, a recipe for mint and sugar muddled in a glass. She hearted it and sent a 3-second recording of sound that wasn't music and wasn't speech, and made the apartment remember what to do with oxygen. We added a new rule we managed to keep for an entire month. If a tab wants us to learn a building, we learn our roof first. But I am not going to lie to you or to the bad lamp. A month later, I came home to find the tab group named Balcony in my list again. No new tabs, just the ghost of the word. I could have performed nobility. I could have deleted it without telling anyone because secrets are how children test their beds. Instead, I stood in the hall until Mara came in with her hair pinned and her hands empty, and I held up the phone and said, "This thing wants a fight." She looked at the word, then at me, then at the ugly lamp. "It can wait," she said. "I can't." She crossed the room like a decision. "Storm or quiet?" "Quiet," I said, "because you asked first." We stood and invented a way to love each other that didn't require announcing what we were protecting. Later, because bodies prefer honesty to slogans, we did the other thing too. We stopped when stopping was more interesting than carrying on. We slept with our feet touching, and the roof over us didn't feel like a thing we'd borrowed. This morning, Safari offered one of those neutral manipulations. "Close 20 tabs," it asked, helpful and smug. I tapped close all because some rituals are worth performing even if the meaning is where the app thinks it is. The words went away. The phone went quiet. The basil pretended to be a tree. We wrote one last sentence on the menu, not because we plan to be saints, but because we want the house to know we've thought about it. In her careful hand, the line reads, "Balconies are for us when we decide. The internet can watch the kitchen." I poured coffee. She stole the good mug. The ugly lamp kept being ugly, which is to say honest. She kissed my neck the way people do when they want to save a day before it starts. "Don't start without me," she said. "Then come here," I said. And we did. And there were no tabs to show anyone what we chose, which is the point. Which is how you keep the room you built from applying for a job you never wanted it to have.